Okay, let's do 3 ohms. You can go ahead and unmute. Like, welcome, welcome. So, tell us a bit about yourself, Melissa.
Well, I took your class, your certification class. It was in 2011.
What's your last name?
No, wait a minute. What year are we in? No, I'm
2023.
sorry.
That's okay.
2023.
2021. Jeez, about 10 years. Woods.
Okay, cool.
So, yeah, I haven't been connected to anything like this, but this just seemed really uh, exciting. So, here I am.
Have you had any experience with stroke?
No, but my grandfather died of one.
Okay, okay, cool. Okay, how about you, Todd?
So I've been a member for a little while, but I've never had an opportunity to join in due to timing. And so this time I cleared the space and wanted to be here. I felt it was a good time to connect. I do sound healing and I practice Reiki and work with some folks. And recently have launched a nonprofit model to be able to provide services to folks that aren't able to pay for services. So we're doing a no cost model. We just started and we're learning lots of things, and I'm making a lot of connections and networking. And I saw the link pop up, and I thought it was an interesting one. My stepfather had a stroke a few years ago. That was my experience, and I saw how debilitating it was. And I often wish that I would have the opportunity to apply sound healing, but he's in a care facility that's closed off to that. So I'm really interested to hear where you're making headway, because I saw I've always followed your mission statement, which is trying to bridge that gap between the different models so that we can all learn that there's a lot of different ways to heal together besides just one way.
Cool. Great, welcome. Okay, how about you, Susie?
Hello, made it back.
Mhm.
I am actually a life coach trained as a psychotherapist, had a practice, have a practice for a couple decades. And before this life, I was a classical pianist.
Mm,
So music is very important to me. And what I find myself doing is bringing sound into my practice. And I've been finding ways to get involved in that. So I'm really happy that you found me, and I'm not sure how you did that, but yeah,
right, welcome.
yeah.
Um, so we're just going around and telling about ourselves. Kirk, tell us about yourself, where you're from, and if you have any experience with stroke.
Hello, David. My name is Kirk Jones, and I am in Vermont right now, and I teach sound healing across the country, but mostly in the Northeast US, and mostly using singing bowls, bronze singing bowls, but a lot of other instruments. And I do not have experience working on someone that has already had a stroke, specifically that I know of that I've recorded. Um, but it is, blood clots are a concern of mine, and so I've done a lot of research into how they form and what I and my
Oh, you just froze. Uh oh. Uh oh. I lost Kirk. Okay. Okay. So,
Yeah.
oh, you froze. You said blood clots were interesting, and then you froze.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know why that's happening. Um, bl blood clots. Uh, so it's just something that I do not want to um, cause a blood clot to travel. I do a lot
Right.
of healing work with bronze bowls on the body,
Uh-huh.
and now more with weighted tuning forks on the body. And so, for myself and all of the people that I'm training, I want to make sure that we know ways to be the safest around those types of issues that could cause a stroke or other types of similar issues.
hmm Yeah, I don't know too much about stroke. I was just looking it up a bit. There seems to be two main types that cause. One is blood clots, and one is veins that break,
Mm,
which I assume is a completely different issue, right?
I think the blood clots cause veins to break, but
Mhm.
yeah, I don't know.
Maybe
I'm not
there's high blood pressure and the veins just get weak as
Hmm.
well, but the blood clots can cause high blood pressure because they get in the way. Right?
at least locally. Yeah, for
Mm.
sure.
So it seems like that's an important aspect because, uh, you know, a couple of years ago, I woke up with a cramp in my left leg, and I talked
Mhm.
to a medical intuitive, and she said, "You've got to go get an ultrasound." I'm like, "Really?" And they found a blood clot from my hip all the way down to my ankle.
Oh
And
my
then
gosh.
the ultrasound person said they'd never seen one so big. And within 9 months, I just set the intention to be gone, and I did blood thinner, and it was gone. But I couldn't do sound on it at all. They said don't even get a massage, right? Because it's serious. I mean, if I've got like a bass pod that will vibrate intensely on the body. I've got bass belts. I've got pillows. I've got lounges. I couldn't do any of that because if it breaks loose, you could be easily dead in a half hour. All right, because it goes into the lungs is the most common, but it could go into the brain and it could go into the heart. And then it actually came back a few months ago, so I've got a little one now, and I'm on blood thinner again. So although the the medical intuitives like she's totally tracking them. She says it's down to 8%, not a big deal anymore, uh, and the other one's like 4%. So I'm not. So I'm doing sound on it totally now again. Um,
Hmm.
but but yeah, I mean this is really dangerous. So if it's if it's blood clots that are causing the stroke, then you have to defer to the blood clot uh, uh, safety because you really. I mean, this is physical vibration on the body though, which is quite different than vibrate sound around the body.
Hmm.
I mean, we're talking, tuning forks and big Tibetan bowls, especially big Tibetan bowls on the body.
For sure. I mean, I think there is an extent that things outside of the body can trigger movement within the body, but hopefully the movement within the body would be in a beneficial way, not in a self-defeating way.
Yeah, I somehow get the sense. I mean, that's like saying, I mean, but it's like saying, oh, you shouldn't move, right? Shouldn't even hike or anything. Well, of course, you got to keep the blood flowing, So I think that's actually my sense is that it's way more detrimental to not do anything and then to actually get movement. Um, what I had students do is actually, I'm going to take notes here as we go. Two types of blood clots.
And I'm wondering
Um,
how much you've been using those base pods on your legs, like previously, because it seems like the movement is a good preventative measure to prevent blood clots.
uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
very good. I'm pretty sure that my blood clots came from COVID. Although one
Because you had
intuitive,
a vaccination?
no, no, COVID gives you blood clots too. In fact, there's
Oh,
a
the
study in,
actual virus.
yeah, yeah, I never got a vaccine. So, so I'm, yeah, I'm, and even medical intuitives said that that's where they think it came from.
Hmm.
And although one did say they felt it was um, in my genes, it's genetic. So, so I started drinking my. I never drank coffee or tea, so I started drinking tea to get things moving a little bit. Uh, But yeah, I mean, otherwise, so what I had students do quite a lot was actually um, uh, just set the intention to melt the blood clots.
Hmm.
And we've already done like a whole session on blood clots itself, which was actually a pretty short session because there's not too much you can do. Right? It's really just setting the intention that there'll be flow. So it's interesting because it seems, see what you guys think about this. It seems different with a stroke because the the it's like you got to get blood flow. I mean, now you've got the brain that is really hurt because it lost blood flow for a bit. And so it seems like, it's like, it seems like the main remedy is to get blood flow and to help the nerves. And this is my, so what we always do, let me backtrack here and then show you where I'm going. So what we always do is in these meetings, we have an outline that we fill in, and that is we start with the medical details, information about the issue, which we're just talking about, and that helps us inform our approach as to what we're going to do. So we just talked about that it's going to be a different approach whether someone's got an exploded vein, which may not be from a blood clot, versus an actual. So this would be important information to find out whether it was a blood clot that caused the vein to explode or break, or it's actually just maybe high blood pressure or something like that, which can happen. An aneurysm doesn't necessarily come from a blood clot. Um, and then it would be different if they have a blood clot. But even so, I'm thinking if it's with a blood clot, I mean, you got to get blood flow. You got to get flow to help heal that part that's hurt now, that really got damaged. Um, and so then there's a conceptual framework, and that is the overall approach. With the conceptual framework, it's like, you if you figure out the approach as to what you're going to do, there might be a million different ways you can do sound based on that approach. One basic approach that I'll show you in a minute is just peace, and that's what sound's all about, is peace. Right? And then so that's the most important aspect, is how we're going to approach it, because then people can do sound based on that approach in many different ways, depending on the instruments or the way you do it. Safety guidelines we're just talking about is really important, especially in this case. And then we got intake questions, and then the actual treatments other than sound, and then homework you could give them. So this is how we lay out all of our treatment plans. And we've got treatment plans for all these different issues now that are really like often 30 pages.
Wow.
So um, if you ever want to look at any other issues, there's some really good information in here, and it's a work in progress. It can always be added to. If you have any ideas, send it to us. Right. So the so when I look at the approach, uh, the number one thing that you can do on anything is peace. Let me show you what we use for everything. Treatment plans. Here we go. Okay, so this is peace. With peace, it's good for you physically, mentally, emotionally, and even spiritually. You can listen to frequencies, very specific frequencies that might be appropriate, or just consistent frequencies, which are tuning forks. I mean, goodness gracious. I mean, often we're not using specific frequencies for tuning forks on anybody. We might get somewhat specific, but to find, I mean, you have to make up a million tuning forks if you're going to get very specific on an actual nerve or anything. But so it's often more general, but it's a stable, consistent vibration, which is the definition of peace. And then sounds, that could be a Tibetan bowl. I mean, it's a stable, consistent vibration that is actual peace. And then harmonious musical intervals, if you're going to use more than one bowl or more than one sound. Music that's got a flow, a slow fade. There's nothing better than a slow fade on a crystal bowl, and the peace at the end in stillness of silence is just amazing. And I've had 10,000 people in a room not move for 10 minutes, right? Home note of the key of the song. If you always use the end on the home note of the key of the song, it's even more peaceful. And then dynamic curves that smoothly build up and smoothly break down so you can get people to a really peaceful place. Right? Slowly changing tempo, smoothly, slowly changing volume, slowly changing all types of musical parameters so you get them to stillness. Having them play can be really good, and I assume having them actually, uh, this is actually a huge one because for stroke, if you have somebody play something, especially if they're doing left and right hands, that's really good for the left and right brain, whatever instrument they're playing. So get them to play it themselves, especially just even if they're just doing patting on their leg, right? You don't have an instrument, just left and right. We're doing that for the dementia patients, and it's really helpful. Uh, Voice work, and that could be you doing voice on them, or mostly getting them to do voice work. And that's stable, consistent vowels are the definition of peace. uh, Sounds on the body, Tibetan bowls, tuning forks, frame drums, sound tables, sound lounges. Oh, we now have a sound. We have a belt and a vest, but we just created this yesterday. Let's see. Let me show you. I'm sitting on it, but I don't have it playing. We've got a sound. Check this out. A sound pillow, and it's got speakers in the arms, and it's got speakers in the back here. It's really really, it's really powerful, and it's comfortable too. So I'm sitting on it anyway, even though it's not on. Right.
Hey, David,
So,
I have a question.
mm-hmm.
That uh, pillow, and as opposed to the sound table, is it same effectiveness or?
Yeah, yeah, it doesn't go on the whole body, but it's really powerful.
Okay.
It's almost no nothing on the legs. So yeah, it's really effective. So that can be very cool. That can get you peaceful. And this, I actually have had a guy with stroke, and we put him on the sound table years ago before I even thought about safety guidelines. And it was really effective for him because it gets the blood flow going through the body. So that could be good, but I would check and see if they got serious blood clots or not. Uh, brainwave entrainment tuned to them. This is like always the best, especially the best. There's nothing better than this for brain injuries. I mean, when the brain is hurt, it goes into fibrillation. It's like chaotic vibration. Ah! And when you do an assessment where we've got these 12 tones and 12 rhythms, I can actually play it for you. So, um, so you know what I'm talking about. So, so we play like, okay, here's the G. So both the rhythm and the notes are in G. If you octavize a note down, cut it in half, it's the same note. If you keep going below 20 hertz, it becomes a rhythm. So this rhythm is actually G also. Here's G sharp. And then A. A sharp. Notice the rhythm getting faster. There's the D. D sharp. F sharp.
Can you play the C? Can you play two notes at the same time?
No, not on here. I can't on here. So so the idea is we play that and see which one makes them the most peaceful, calm, and still. And I've been doing it for 10 years, so I watch them on Zoom, and often they know. And then we give them binaural beats tuned to them. I've got 48 CDs uh, in Delta for sleep, Theta for creativity, Alpha for learning, and Beta for overcoming ADD. And I've got them in all 12 keys: Delta, Theta, Alpha, and Beta. So we give them the Delta, Theta, Alpha, and Beta. And this is like shockingly effective for brain injuries. So there's nothing better than that, I would say, for a stroke, because that totally gets their brain back to its normal rhythm. Then there's voice work. You can do voice on the body or have them do more voice. And then self discovery and transformation. This is more around emotional issues like PTSD and such. I mean, there could be some work here, but maybe there's an emotional component behind it, but maybe not. So, and then also go into the higher perspective. I mean, if you can bring in source energy and get them peaceful that way, source is intelligent and it can actually totally do the work. I was with a woman who's a medical intuitive last night, and she said the whole deal is you talk to the cells and say, "Do you really want to do this?" And she said that often they go, you give them the option to actually change so they're not creating the problem. It's like, okay, that's cool. So those are techniques that are good for any issue, and then you can get specific for other from there. So peace is always good, whatever you're doing, whether it's sound bowls, voice work, or any instrument. So my thought again is really activation. It's peace, but also there's an activation component because you can always look at it whether they need more activation or calming. With depression, you're going to need activation. With anxiety, you're going to need calming. So, because I'm thinking we want to get blood flow, we want to get flow through the nervous system because the nerves are fried when they don't get blood. So I'm thinking it's the nervous system that we're working on as much as the blood flow, because the blood, it's not like, I mean, I'm assume what they do if you have a stroke is they give you blood thinner, massive blood thinner, which they only do in the hospital. That's same with blood. If you get like I know that because my brother actually had blood clots and he actually had one went to his brain and he was in the hospital and they just gave him massive blood thinners, which can be dangerous. But when you're in the hospital, they go for it. So imagine they've already taken care of. They're dealing with the blood clots. So we're it's not like we're trying to break up that blood clot that caused the stroke because that's like serious, right? Ultimately, there should be an ultrasound frequency, and there's already companies that talk about doing this, one in Israel, where they can actually put that ultrasound right on the blood clot and melt it. That's where we're headed. And it's kind of wackadoodle that we don't have research and already have this figured out. I mean, you should be able to go in on any blood clot and just do ultrasound and, or maybe ultrasound and sound and just melt it. The problem is you can't fool around. It's got to melt at 100% because if it doesn't melt all the way, you're in trouble. But it seems like you should totally be able to do that. I mean, this company was talking exactly about doing this. This company from Israel, where they said they would, with a stroke, they would melt the blood clots and get flow back to the brain. But that's a medical treatment, right? And that's where we're headed. I mean, that's what where the medical system should be really focused on. Um, so,
Hey, David, can I ask
mm-hmm,
a question real quick?
yeah.
I'm just not clear on what a stroke is. So it's when there's a blood vessel breaks in the brain
No,
and
or it's two as we started with. Let me go over it again here. Let's see. Let me show you what here. So, wrong one. Oh, where did it go? Okay. So if we do a search for stroke, oh, came up. Here we go. Um, Same image didn't come up this time. Oh, let me just go back. History. Stroke. Sorry. Mm. Clot Buster. Buster. Okay. Strokes. Hmm. Okay. Oh, here we go. This is what I was looking for. So, blood clots lodges in cerebral artery causing a stroke. Blood clot breaks off and travels. Normal. So, or um, so it looks like they're talking about blood clots more than anything here. Although I saw another one that said blood vessel breaks. Yeah, they're just showing blood. Oh, here we go. Broken vessel.
Yeah, and this little description right here, I think it even talks about it right there. Something breaks or
Uh-huh.
blockage.
yeah, or it blocks.
Yep. So yeah, because it's basically blockage.
Okay. So, ischemic stroke.
But then what happens? Like oxygen doesn't get to that part of the brain and it
Yes.
starts to
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
die or something?
Yeah. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. No, and then it gets damaged.
Right.
So it's not. Yeah. So we got serious damage when oxygen doesn't get there. That's
That's right.
exactly it.
So we're talking about what to do after a stroke.
Yeah. So it's actually when the, and that's what I was just saying is I see it as a nerve issue as much because it's not like we're trying to heal the blood clot, or it's more like the brain is now lost blood, which means the nerves are now damaged.
So it seems like it's like a type of a traumatic brain injury, which I think early
Exactly.
on you
Exactly.
want it's like breathing techniques, like bringing oxygen into that area. I think it when I've researched TBIs, I did work on someone with a pretty bad TBI, and and yeah, she was really nervous about sound being anywhere near her, and um, but when I researched it, it was like the first several weeks you just want to focus on oxygen, not necessarily vibration, because the vibration can cause, the blood vessels need to heal. They need to like seal up.
Yeah. Well, you don't want to ever put vibration on the brain, on the head anyway. You don't even. They say to never use tuning forks even on the brain, on the head. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, that's quite well known in the field. And I used to, of course, when I first heard that, I immediately got out my tuning forks and put them on my head to see what would happen. Uh, But
I
now
love it on the head, but
oh, I think I've had three people got thrown off for 3 weeks and couldn't even hardly get out of bed. So I don't do it anymore. It can be really dangerous, and so it's really serious. And if I can't put tuning forks on my head anymore, it freaks me out. It totally throws me off. Unless it's a B, and then I can do it a little bit, which is my note. So
So, quick
it's
question on that, David, since you mentioned that. So, what's the difference between the tuning forks then and the binaural beats? Because if somebody has a set
well, the
of,
binaural beats aren't actually physical vibration on the head. I mean, there's
okay,
a little bit. I mean, it's music, right? But that's
right,
we get that all the time. I mean, it's just sound, so it's not physical vibration vibrating.
okay,
Um, yeah, it's actually just brainwave entrainment, which is a whole different thing than physical vibroacoustics. So yeah, um, so more. I mean, so okay, how are we going to get more oxygen? Well, that's activation. It's not calming, that's activation. So I keep thinking activation is going to be the deal, whether it's actually, uh, which could be a gong, right? Uh, Although we have to start slowly. This is okay. This is really important here. So if someone's just had a stroke, they are fragile, right? And you can't get anybody very activated that's really fragile. That's a problem right there. If somebody's really fragile, just in the hospital or had anything going on, I mean, you don't use a gong. You don't use, like, even Tibetan bowls are really activating. You have to be really careful because they're really fragile. So the trick is to really gauge how activating you can get because ultimately you want to get like movement or uh, um, I would say the sound lounge would be really good because that's really quite activating for the system, even though it's calming at the same time. Or any sounds that are more activating, which would include Tibetan bowls because they have a lot of rhythms in them and a lot of odd harmonics, which are quite activating, more dissonance, and gongs, which are really dissonant in the harmonic structure. And so those are really good for activation.
could you use something like a Koshi chime that's kind of gentle but activating?
Now, Koshi chimes, I don't see those as activating at all.
Okay,
I mean, those are about as soft as it gets, right? Because they're so soft and sweet and melodic. I don't. I mean, if I'm mapping out a sound bath or a sound treatment, I use the Koshi chimes as the mellowest, not the. I mean, they're like the opposite of a gong.
Right. I was just thinking in the fragile state, right? We were talking about being in fragile and kind of
Well, if
bringing
you're
them
talking about
into,
activation, is what you
yeah,
just said. So I
right.
don't see those as activating at all. I mean, on the calming side, I see like a sansula or a, kalimba, and even the in the dementia company that we're working with, the number one instrument that was the favorite of all, because we're testing all 200 dementia patients for 20 different instruments to see what they like and what they don't like, and then we put them in groups based on the instruments they like, which this could be really cool, right?
Mm.
But the number one instrument is the free note xylophone, which is really sweet and soft. So, so you really gauge how fragile. I mean, now if someone's had a stroke like a month ago, then it's not like they're really fragile anymore. Hopefully, you just gauge it, and then you could start working towards activation to get more blood flow and to those nerves that are damaged. That's what I'm thinking. How's that sound?
So more like calming in the
No,
first month?
yeah, yeah, because the first month, I mean, it's like, if someone's like just had a stroke, their system, they can't handle very much vibration. I mean, around them. I mean, it's hard to handle hardly anything. I mean, you're really fragile. You're in the hospital, in fact, right? So it's like, to bring in something like, I mean, although a Tibetan bowl with a rubber mallet and hit softly is still pretty warm, right? Even though it's still odd harmonics going boom, boom, boom. That's pretty nice and
It
warm.
feels like deep, low, steady tone might be just because I feel like if
Nice.
something
Yeah.
goes wrong in your head and you're in the hospital and then you come home, something that just like mellows you out and keeps you really grounded
Nice.
could
Yeah.
be nice.
Yeah. I think that's perfect. Yeah. Yeah. I think and so two stages, fragile stage and then recovery stage. So any low frequencies are always calming. The most calming. High frequencies are more activating. Um, and no uh, no odd harmonics, which are like reed instruments, or no gongs. Um, right. And then we'll start working. Although I would actually start using brainwave entrainment very soon, maybe delta. Right. Ultimately, um, yeah. Although no, I don't know. Actually, you might have to be careful with this because if there's, this is what I think. We'll get. I mean, in when you get really fragile, it's like often I just think nothing. I mean, if someone just had an aneurysm where the blood vessel burst, I'm afraid to do anything, right? It's like this guy calls up a year ago and he says, "My daughter's having seizures. What do you recommend?" And I'm like, "How old is she?" And he goes, "3 months." I'm like, "Holy crap. I'm not going to be putting sound on a 3 month old with seizures, right?" I mean, I, that's serious, right? If someone just had an aneurysm with a vein that burst, I mean, any type of activation, even binaural beats, could be too much because I mean that vein has just gotten sewed up, I guess, or I don't know what they do if they sew it up or what. Uh,
I mean, I think if anything, as when people come home from the hospital and everything, some sort of sound more just like music in the room, not necessarily like
mm-hmm.
super focused, but I can imagine that someone could come home and maybe their home is chaotic,
Uh-huh.
and maybe just having gentle sound where they are to kind of drown out the chaos perhaps around them, and just have, I don't know, really gentle slow flute music or whatever.
Yeah.
That
Oh, that's excellent. I think you could do that even in the hospital too, because I mean,
definitely,
yeah, I mean, any disease, anything like this is stressful. So any way you can mellow them out where it's not anything major in the room. I mean, just the sounds of the equipment, it can be stressful. Yeah, no, that's excellent. That's really, I think that's a credit. So you can always do that.
David,
That's just the peace level. Yeah,
couldn't
peace.
you also apply the ohm?
Apply the ohm what?
Yeah, just the sound of ohm. I just remember when I was in the certification program that
Yeah,
ohm is just that centralized
yeah,
calming, you
yeah,
know.
Yeah,
yeah,
and that's what I keep going back to too as you're speaking. I'm thinking about the voice as an instrument.
yeah.
So when,
All these are great.
yeah, and if you have a little one, probably already in tuned with the mother's voice, right? So maybe the soothing sounds of the baby's own mother may be helpful
Baby's
in some way.
mother. What are you talking about?
Oh, you said a 3-month-old.
Oh no, we're talking about stroke here. Oh wait.
Yeah, I thought you said you had somebody
Yeah,
call you with.
I was given an example of somebody that's too fragile and not doing
Right.
sound, and I gave that example and I went back to the stroke is they're very fragile as well. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So voice, any of this stuff, as any voice work, which is ohms or vowels and consonants. I mean, not consonant vowels or stable rhythms. You could do consonants. Ba 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 ba. That could be really good, especially if you can discern their rhythm and do a ba 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 ba. But yeah, anything that's soothing and calming and peaceful is definitely any of this is great, really great. So you could do any of these around them, except for the sounds on the body and maybe the brainwave entrainment. Even having them play at beginning, of course, is going to be too much. But afterwards, in recovery, I would think a whole protocol. So I would, for recovery, I mean, just mellow them out once they're fragile, right? So for recovery, I would say brainwave entrainment, tune to them, and then and especially playing an instrument, because if they can do left and right, because their probably motor skills are probably can often be a problem as well. So any way they can play an instrument uh, it is good. And it's so actually, I was really shocked by how many dementia patients could play. In fact, actually, the staff was shocked because there was about 5 dementia patients where they're like, "Holy moly, they haven't even reacted to anything, and now they're playing the sansula and the free note." Right? So it was actually amazing that. So getting motor coordination going again is really good. Again, even if it's just playing the legs, tapping the legs, that could be really cool. So you could show them that. Uh, then I would start bringing in slowly bring in more activation to get more blood flow. Movement, sound, and movement, even if it's just moving the arms or moving the fingers, just that would be really good because that's activation, getting more blood flow. Start small, then expand. So that's what I'm thinking so far. Uh, let's see. Then sound on the body, right? I would say once they're in recovery, that could actually be the best now that I think about it. If there's no more danger of a blood clot breaking through, and that's you check with them and check with what the doctor has said. You know, if I mean, if they've still got, a certain percentage of a blood clot there, you can't do this. But if there's no danger of the blood clot breaking loose, then sound on the body, it's just the best because it gets not only blood flow and it's good for the nervous system and for any movement. I mean, for recovery of of getting the parts of the body to move again, which is a big problem. Any more ideas here? Future.
Uh, I like your idea. I like the concept of getting the body to move again,
Uh-huh.
um, with the playing the instruments and um, yeah, that would be a great thing to test out in a similar environment to what you're talking about with the dementia patients to see what level of um, normal function can be regained.
Uh-huh. Right. Because the second you get a rhythm going, especially if you can, I mean, speed up and slow down while watching them. And we do this with the babies, with the dementia patients, with anybody. Watch while you're playing. If I'm just doing a treatment, I did a treatment on somebody yesterday, and I'm totally watching what rhythm seems to make them mellow out the most. So you try and match their rhythm with the drum. And then you say, okay, move your finger up and down, right? Move your hand up and down, right? Okay, now if you're ready, move your arm up and down. Or just pat your leg with two of this, right? So you're totally getting into your own rhythm. So and then rock back and forth. I mean, there's the whole. I mean, this is probably exactly what they're already doing in stroke therapy in the hospital. It's just physical therapy. It's just simple physical therapy. But when you do it with sound and music, it's easier because now they're getting the. I mean, you're playing a little drum, right? Or playing even hitting a crystal bowl or Tibetan bowl to the rhythm. Dun, 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 right? And then they totally get moving to that, and now they're totally involved. Yeah, I think that's the deal. Using sound and music to, I mean, you could play EDM for that matter. If they're into it, dance music, or rock and roll. So what music do you like? Big band music. Let me play big band music. We're gonna rock back and forth. Hmm. God, I think the brainwave entrainment because I've had serious response for people that had brain injuries. I mean, just dramatic. I had this one guy that was on Adderall for 8 years, and after 1 week, he was off the Adderall, and totally his energy changed dramatically just being off the Adderall. But he was able to completely get off of it and listen to binaural beats tuned to him. It was really effective. We're now creating a EKG unit where you can hook it up and it will tell you your metabolism, where you're at peace, because that's what we're talking about, your heart rate and brainwave rate when you're at peace in in 1 minute, and then it will automatically give you music. Okay, here's another thing that I think is really effective that I want to show you that we're working on. So let me find it. Oh, here we go. Okay, so we're working on finding the melody and rhythm of each of the 11 systems in the body. Actually, my guides woke me up at 4 in the morning and told me how to do this. Right? They said first we need to know the musical interval relationship between the heart, brain, and breath when you're in the zone. Well, there's multiple zones. One is peace, which is not that stable, apparently. The second is heart coherence, which the heart math measures, which is way more stable when you're transmitting love and your heart actually goes up and down in tempo based on a smooth S curve. And that's measurable with EKG and EEG easily. And then there's also oneness, which is also measurable with EEG. There's a guy that can tell you exactly when you're in unity consciousness. So we already did some research, and when you average out the heart rate, it's actually octaves. The heart, brain, and breath are all octaves. So we can use that rhythm based on EKG and EEG to figure out the exact rhythm of each of the 11 systems, because it's going to be in direct relationship, probably octaves or unison, which is the same. Maybe a musical fifth, 3-2 relationship, but it's not going to be weird. It's not going to be if you're in the zone, if you're you know uh, in one of these zones, it's going to be in sync with the heart, brain, and breath. So that's the rhythm of each of the 11 systems should be easy to figure out. Then my guide said we need to know the melody of each of the 11 systems. Well, if you're going to have a melody, you got to know the notes. But to measure for the notes, we need to know where to measure for the notes. And so those would be nodes within each of the 11 systems, kind of like acupuncture points. Acupuncture point is a node within the meridian. And when energy flows through a meridian, it's playing a song based on a very specific rhythm and a very specific melody. So that's what we're looking for, but in the 11 medical systems. So we've got some doctors helping us find the nodes, and then we can measure with an electron microscope called the Raman spectroscopy that John Stuart Reed has used. And I know a guy that's making even a better version now. And we can measure for the entire harmonic content of each cell within those nodes. So we not only have the notes, we got the whole timbre or harmonic content of that node. And now we've got the notes and the rhythm. Well, so we have the melody of each of the 11 systems tuned to that person precisely. And then we use needles with frequencies, microcurrents with electronic pads, ultrasound, infrared light, and we run that, and scalar waves, and we run that river of flow through each of the 11 systems tuned precisely to that person while in virtual reality watching it while you're hooked up to EKG. So you're seeing it actually all the songs go into alignment, hearing all 11 songs. And I think something's going to happen. It's so funny because I never thought about this until just a few minutes ago for stroke. I mean, this seems like the best ever for stroke. Now you're running that flow through the system, unless you've got blood clots, right? But even, yeah, it could still be a problem for blood clots. But otherwise, what could be better? Running that not only electricity and blood flow, you're basically getting flow through all 11 systems, which is exactly what you need for more oxygen, for activation, for peace, for all of it. That's should be funded today. That's where we're headed. think the main takeaway from this is it's quite dramatically different depending on whether it's an aneurysm or it's a blood clot. So it's really, I think, if you're going to work with stroke, you need to find this out. It's also dramatically different whether it's just happened or they're in recovery. Because, I mean, the question is, how fragile are they? Because you got to be careful when somebody's really fragile. Ultimately, as we go along and get more involved with doctors, we can say, okay, this is precisely what they can handle at this level of fragility. But we're not there yet, so we got to err on the side of caution. But mellow sounds, mellow music is always good. Soft peace is good for anything, no matter how fragile they are. This is like hospice, people totally go in when people are in hospice. They're seriously fragile. You don't take a gong into hospice, right? You just do some, like or a low frequency bowl, never with a wood stick, but a low frequency Tibetan bowl with a big rubber mallet. Oh, it's so nice and calming, right? I wouldn't put it on the body though. Yesterday I put a big one on the body though. And this woman I worked on yesterday, she's a medical intuitive, and she had never had a big Tibetan bowl on her. I had like a 12-inch, right? I put it on her, and she immediately went, "Wow!" She had already done the sound table, but still she was like, "Whoa!" And then I did tuning forks on her for a half hour, and she was blown away. It's like,
Yeah, that diagram that you showed with the waves going from it looked like the forehead to the toes, and from the, I don't know, shoulder to the fingers. That's kind of how I visualize what's happening if you were to do tuning forks on either end
nice,
of that wave.
nice,
That was
nice.
really cool to see it visualized.
I
Thank you
love
for
it.
that.
It's really, I think it's critical for whenever you work on anybody to realize it's not about frequency. You use frequency. It's not about timbre, which is just a bunch of frequencies. Ultimately, it's all about flow in that system. So you're using a frequency to get that part so it will retrieve and receive and transmit the flow. That's really what you're doing. So it's beautiful to be able to visualize the flow through the whole system while you're working on that one part. Because that's the definition of health is smooth flow without blockages. So we work on the blockages with frequencies and timbres and stuff. Sometimes break them up, sometimes harmonize them. So there's now flow again. So I'm often visualizing flow through the whole system. So this is cool. If you look at it from the intention level, you're really just imagining flow through that brain again. And a lot of people say this is the most effective, more than the sound, is the energy part of it. And it's simply visualizing that flow through the system. And it was so cool because when I had the blood clots, I'd had a room full of students do this, and they were all visualizing flow, and it felt incredible just to have that energy of flow going. So just say, I see perfect flow through the system again, and then create the atmosphere with the sound for that to manifest. I gotta write that down. That's good. I mean, again, I mean, if you can just access love and light and source energy while you're doing your session, spirit knows the best, knows exactly what to do. And that's what, you know, medical intuitives, I mean, when you get higher beings working on it, there's nothing better. Then miracles happen like that. Oh my God, the blood clots are completely gone. I mean, and you just set your intention. Here's another one that's really cool. This is my all-time favorite, and I use it almost on anything. Tell the person, imagine what it would feel like if everything was completely resolved. All symptoms of the stroke are completely gone, and you're 100% back to normal. Imagine what that would feel like. And sometimes it takes them a minute, but take your time until they really visualize it. And then say, feel it completely. And then, if you can, make a sound of how that feels. And they go, ooh, right? And that's flow. That's their system working perfectly again. The body doesn't know any different. The body goes, perfect? Well, we're in complete flow. There's no more anxiety, no more fear, no more all. I mean, the emotional aspect is the biggest problem to the healing because there's so much anxiety and fear and, I mean, even anger, you know. I mean, pain, not to mention pain. So just imagine it's all gone. And the body goes, party time, immune system working 100%. That's my favorite.
That is wonderful. And with the higher dimensionals, I like to bring in green light,
Nice.
some emerald flame and stuff.
I love it.
That's really good.
I love it. I have a sense that infrared, because, you know, infrared light at 40 hertz is known to really help dementia because that's the pulsing of the nerves, apparently. So there's a potential that infrared light could really help. It may be even 40 hertz. And there's even YouTube videos of light flashing at 40 hertz, although the study they did in the university was infrared on the brain. And so, in fact, there's one study, someone just told me about 3 studies where they showed dramatic results for dementia with that 40 hertz infrared on the brain. 3 other studies other than the original one. I would like to do a study of brainwave entrainment on different brain injuries and show how effective it is, or not. Just see exactly. I mean, there's so much refinement. I mean, we tune it to the person, but I mean, which is the best? Delta, theta? I mean, I've been doing all, alpha or beta, right? I mean, maybe one or the other is better, or maybe all of them together, or one after another. There's some serious research should be done about this around this because the potential is so huge.
And they can be really debilitating.
Uh huh.
So the benefit, yeah, would be huge. And in that case, actually, the sooner that you can apply the healing frequencies, probably the better. I mean, I'm not saying like within the first week necessarily, but after 3 weeks, I think is going to be better than like 3 years later,
Yeah, yeah,
you know, to actually treat it kind of early on.
nice. I learned from this chiropractor that, and this, yeah, of course, as you said, as you're saying, it's you got to be careful when they're fragile. But I've learned that if you get a pain, if you get a bruise or even a burn, if you get sound on it immediately, you can stop the that pain response that then spirals out. And I learned this from a chiropractor. I actually twisted my ankle, and it was right next to me, and immediately did a adjustment on it. It's like if I hit my arm, or if you just start rubbing it, which is really a frequency, right? Then that you don't get that pain response, which actually God kind of blew it when it comes to pain, right? I mean, because it's like the pain response creates tension in the body, which actually makes it worse. And then you can get to the point where it's totally debilitating. We haven't even talked about this, but we have the whole section on pain that we've already gone over. That if some, and because often strokes lead to a lot of serious pain in the body. I didn't even realize that. I just read it just shortly ago. And so the sound on the body when there's pain, I mean, a big Tibetan bowl or even a small Tibetan bowl, you just hold it on them. Where there's pain, it can be really effective. So that's, or tuning forks, obviously, bass belt we sell is really incredibly effective because you can have it on there for a couple of hours even. So if there's any pain associated with the stroke, I mean, we got that down. And also getting people to a mellow state just by sounds around them, just doing a little sound bath, is well known. When you're blissed out, dopamine gets secreted, all types of other stuff, and the pain that can really help with pain. And you're not running that pain response, which makes it worse, which creates tension. So just mellowing people out when they're in pain is not really known to be effective. Besides getting it right on that spot. Okay. Any other thoughts here or questions or anything? I would like to have a grant to go into the hospitals, meet with the doctors, and refine this. I mean, it seems what I look at is what's the potential to really help people. And so, if we're going to spend time and money on a research project, how big is the potential to help? And it seems like the potential to help here is pretty large. The potential to help pain is off the charts. But for stroke, I mean, since brainwave entrainment, I mean, that's what they're doing with electrodes on the brain right now. I mean, there's already for brain injuries, they're using electrodes and synchronizing the brain back to its normal rhythm. So this is they're already doing that. So to actually research exactly how it helps the brain or doesn't, right? And know like or how long. I mean, we should. I don't have a clue how long you should do it. I mean, maybe there's a limit as to how long you should do it. I mean, we could, or maybe it should be done for 6 hours. Who knows, right? and to really figure this out, it just seems like, I mean, of all the different things that we have talked about in these meetings, this seems like it's really worth it.
I think I think it's also important to incorporate breath
Oh,
and,
oh,
make
that's
sure
really
that
good.
the blood is very
Oh,
oxygenated while the brain is resetting.
oh, I think that's one of the most important. I'm so glad you mentioned that. And you can totally see when you're in the zone, you breathe to the tempo of your metabolism. So everybody breathes a little bit slower, a little faster. And so it's really, I think it's, a lot of people do breath work where they say 5 in, 10 out, or whatever. There's so many different ways you do it. I think if you just say, I was at a breatharian conference, and there's this one guy who was like one of the main presenters, and he said, just get the oxygen in. That's all that counts, right? Breathe deep in and out. Don't worry about how fast or slow or how many times. Just get it in and do it. And I've been in many breath workshops, and it's really to find your own rhythm is really the deal. So just say, breathe in and out at whatever tempo feels right for you. But get the oxygen in. And then if once you find their rhythm, if you can play the music or even have two bowls where you go, okay, here's the in breath, the musical fifth maybe. Ding. Here's the out breath. Ding, the home note, right? Ding, ding. So two notes like that, or even just a rhythm on the drum. Dum, dum. So to help them with the rhythm of their breath, once you find what's good for them, you could just watch what they do and see if they're relaxed when they're doing it. Oh my God, I think that's the best yet because that's going to get more blood, more oxygen, more. I mean, more. I mean, it's the best. Seems like the best of all. Excellent. Hmm. When somebody's debilitated, it's harder to breathe. I remember when I had appendicitis, I was starting to get a little pneumonia, or they were testing my breath, and they said it's not very strong. And I think playing a rhythm helps people breathe more. Cool. Okay. Well, I think we got a pretty good plan. I'll collate this and post it on the site and send it out to everyone. And if you come up with any other ideas, let me know. This is good, really good, because I think most people wouldn't know what to do. And the safety guidelines here are really important on this one. This is so cool because by getting these safety guidelines down, we can start filtering these into the integrative therapy departments of hospitals and have a whole system for integrative therapy departments for different issues where they've got, okay, here's the protocol that you do based on what we know, and then we refine it as we go. I'm seeing that the integrative therapy departments, once they get informed of all of this, it's going to be so effective for all different issues. It's already effective just getting people, I mean, because you get people to a place of peace and mellow it out, and often miracles happen right there. Cool. Alrighty, any other thoughts or questions before we end? So imagine that we've got the ideal treatment ready to go for all strokes. When it happens and for recovery. And it's incredibly effective. Imagine what that would feel like. And unmute and make the sound of that. Thank you for your time and energy.
Thank you.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Thank you, David. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.